Okay, we're live on YouTube now too. So
Okay.
you're ready to go whenever you are.
All right, we got about a minute.
Sounds good. Welcome, Michael. I see you down there on the screen. So just after your portion of the meeting, if you want, you can turn off your camera and mute or leave. It's up to you.
Okay. I didn't know if I was supposed to prepare something, so I didn't prepare anything specific.
No, I just asked you to join us in case there's any questions.
I can answer those.
All righty. Thanks, Mike.
All right, I've got 7:30, so why don't I go ahead and call the December 1st, 2020 Oxford City Council meeting to order. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Bracken.
Here.
Mr. Ellerby.
Here.
Mr. Prithridge.
Here.
Mr. Snavely.
Here.
Ms. Southard.
Here.
And Mayor Smith.
Here. All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Snavely, second by Councilor Southard. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll to approve the agenda?
Mr. Ellerby.
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge.
Yes.
Mr. Snavely.
Yes.
Ms. Southard.
Yes.
Mr. Bracken.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right, we will move into public participation, and we're going to start tonight with a presentation from the Oxford Farmers Market from Mr. Larry Slocum.
Well, thank you so very much. Well, tonight I brought my friend Dave Sams with me. Go ahead. And he's going to play the guitar. This is going to be a song to, as you all hear, I've changed the words to the song, Alice's Restaurant, to be the Oxford Farmers Market. Now, I've already brought the, well, actually Ross brought the $250 to the City Council. So we want to thank you so much for allowing us to use the parking lot, and always glad to offer a few doubloons your way to help make that work. So go ahead. So here's my presentation. And I know that singing doesn't work, but hey, just mute yourself and sing to your heart's content. So just waiting for it to come around the guitar. Here it comes. If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. Just walk right in, buy a bag and go shopping. There's never a market when things aren't hopping. If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. Well, this song is about the Oxford Farmers Market, and more specifically, it's a song about the history of the Oxford Farmers Market. Most of you may not know this bit of Oxford history, but several thousand years ago, the residents of Oxford were tired of going out every day hunting and gathering for their food. It took a lot of time, and their diet was always the same, so rather than grumble about their daily tasks, some residents decided to start a neighborhood garden. Now, this wasn't some ordinary garden because no one had ever heard of a garden before. And they planted and watered a few seeds, and soon enough they started to grow. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how our city changed the planet. We invented farming. Well, this new idea spread, and soon enough everyone was doing it. These farming skills were improved upon by everyone in the world, and soon enough there were people just focused on farming, and they called themselves farmers. And there were other people in Oxford who focused on reading and writing, and they called themselves professors. And before too long, the citizens of Oxford wondered if there was a better way to pull weeds in the garden. And a few of the professors and a few of the farmers got together and began melting some iron and came up with a blade on the end of a stick, and they called it a hoe. Another first for the citizens of Oxford. We began the Industrial Revolution. As with all good inventions, sometimes things go bad, and people began to create bigger and bigger farms and bigger machines, and they plowed and they fertilized and they pesticided and they weed killed, and the food began to contain less and less protein and destroyed more and more land. So a few people in Oxford brought just a few acres and began to produce food using the original regenerative practices they had heard the old people talk about. Then they took their food to a parking lot on Saturday and sold what they grew. More firsts for Oxford. We began the local food movement and farmers markets. True story. Well, our market continues to this day. And here are a few of the adventures from this year. We received a $5,000 grant from the Oxford Community Foundation to help with our Sprouts Children's Program. Thank you so much, Oxford Community Foundation. Then we had to cancel the program and put the money in the bank for next year. We are now planning what that will look like in the spring. In March, we didn't know if the market would be able to continue. So the Oxford Community Foundation once again came to the aid of our market and gave us $4,500 to start an online market. The Oxford online market continues, and you can go to our website and look around if you'd like to buy some items. Well, we're able to stay open all season with the help of the Butler County Health Department and our city officials, Jessica Green, and I wanted to thank Chantel Ragu, who's also been very helpful to our market. Thank you to them, and thank you to everyone else who has helped. We usually have about 1,000 people come to the market each week, a little down from last year. The market did lose some business due to the virus. However, the CARES grant is allowing us to receive some payroll support, and we are deeply grateful. So, we know that the citizens of Oxford will continue to have a vibrant farmers market that promotes fresh and local food for everyone. An example of how we're able to help everyone is we are now in partnership with Tops, the food pantry, to purchase a refrigerated van that will help be a mobile food bank for Tops and a delivery van for the market. This partnership is amazing. Hang on to your hats. It's just getting started. This fresh local food idea has become a movement, and we want everyone in Oxford to be part of that movement. It's easy to join. All you have to do is walk up to one of your friends and sing, "If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market." They may think you're crazy and continue going to the grocery store. But imagine if you walked up to 50 of your friends, I said 50 of your friends, and you sang, "If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market." Those friends told other friends. Pretty soon we'd have a bigger movement, bringing over 1,500 people to our market each week. So to join the movement, all you have to do is sing with me the next time it comes around the guitar. Here it comes. Sing with feeling. If you want fresh, if you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. You can sing now. If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. Just to walk right in, grab a bag and go shopping. There's never a market when things aren't hopping. If you want fresh produce, follow me to the Oxford Farmers Market. To the Oxford Farmers Market. Thank you very much. A little something we started working on. So anyway, I'm here to answer any questions and to let you know that I thank you so much for all your work.
Well, we certainly thank you, and we thank the market. I think that has been a lifesaver for a lot of people to be able to get outside safely and buy some fresh food this year. So
it's been good. The farmers have done really well. The market collects fees from the farmers, and so we haven't had as many people at the farmers market, any vendors because of that. So our fees are down, and that's why I'm just so grateful to the city for allowing us to do that.
All right. Well, again,
thank you.
We all thank you. We all appreciate your coming. And
all right. Well, don't forget, if you want fresh produce, follow me. See y'all. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right. We need to do appointments to boards and commissions for council members. So I will go ahead and read the list, and then if someone will make a motion. So Vice Mayor Snavely and Councilor Bracken to the Planning Commission, Mayor Smith to the Recreation Board, Councilor Southard to the Historic and Architectural Preservation Commission, Councilors Ellerby and Prithurch to the Community Improvement Corporation, Councilor Ellerby to the Student Community Relations Commission, Councilor Ragu to the Environmental Commission, Councilors Ellerby and Bracken to the Housing Advisory Commission, Mayor Smith and Councilor Bracken to the Firefighters Dependents Board, Mayor Smith and Councilor Ragu to the Woodside Cemetery Board, Councilor Snavely as the OKI representative, Councilor Southard to the Senior Citizens Board of Trustees, Councilor Ragu to the Enjoy Oxford Board, Councilor Southard to the Public Arts Commission of Oxford, and Councilor Prithurch to the Oxford Parking and Transportation Advisory Board. So may I have a motion to
I
approve?
so move that they be approved.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Snavely. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Southard. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll to approve appointments to boards and commissions?
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to public comments. Anyone wishing to address council about items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda, please state your name and address for the record. And please try to keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Ms. Green, do you have any?
We do have one this evening. Ms. Shaman, go ahead.
Right.
Ms. Shaman, there we go.
Ms. Shaman, we still
Ms.
can't
Shaman,
hear
we
you.
can't hear you. Do you want to unmute again?
We got something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. So Amy Shaman, 11 Heather Ridge Court. I wanted to say thank you to Larry Slocum and Ross and all the staff and vendors that make the farmers market such a fabulous place for our community in every year, but especially this year, as was already said. Our family patronizes it, as well as a number of the other options for local food resources in the community. And we appreciate how many resources are available, even though we're a somewhat small community. We continue to encourage the city council to continue support of these and other efforts that help our community be together, that help us with health initiatives, because local food is healthier food, as well as initiatives like this that are good for our environment. And we appreciate that city council continues to consider the neediest in our community with the budget. I know that quite a bit of the meeting tonight, from what I see online, is dedicated to the budget. And we appreciate that everyone in our community is considered. And I wanted to suggest that it would be interesting at some point to have some follow-up on the issue that was raised the last meeting about enforcement of the mask ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else out there?
I do not see any raised hands. Thank you.
All right. We will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Snavely, second.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Southard. Any items to be removed tonight? All right, seeing none. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Thanks to Marianne for great minutes. Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right. We will move on to resolutions. Ms. Eaton, you may read the first resolution whenever you're ready.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Patriot Engineering and Environmental Incorporated for the removal of 3 underground fuel storage tanks and associated contaminated soil located on city-owned property under the sidewalk at 110 East High Street at a cost of $27,658, plus a contingency in the amount of $5,942, for a total cost not to exceed $33,600.
Move
Motion to
adoption.
adopt. Move adoption by Mr. Snavely, second. Second by Counselor Pritchard. And I will turn it over to City Manager Elliott.
Thank you. Well, the former Let's Bookstore and the city-owned property, which is basically the sidewalk on High Street, requires environmental remediation, which includes the removal of underground fuel storage tanks and some contaminated soil. The site has received designation as a Class C site under Buster. And the city, through our consultant, as you know, Patriot Engineering and Environmental, applied for an abandoned gas station cleanup grant.
We lost you, Doug. You froze up.
I froze up. Am I still frozen? Hello?
There, you're back, but you froze up there.
I didn't have any problem.
No, it's just you, Mike.
Dang it.
Sorry, Mike.
It's okay. I know the project.
All right, so we applied for this abandoned gas station cleanup grant from the Ohio Development Services Agency. We were unsuccessful in that. So we're recommending that we move forward with city funding to clean up this site. So I received an estimate from Patriot Engineering and Environmental, and Mary Ann shared those figures with you. So we have 2 parts tonight. The first part is a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Patriot Engineering and Environmental. And the second part, which Joe Newland will address later in a supplemental appropriation, is the appropriation for this project. So we're recommending that you move forward with this project so that we can see the development of this site. And I can share with you that Jessica and I did talk to the owner, Varick Realty, Benjamin Fetterman, about this project to give him an update and ask him where he stands on the project. Of course, he shared with us that his travel restrictions have prevented him from coming back to Oxford and looking at this project. But he gave us, basically said that he would give us a timeline after the first of the year. So we're very anxious to see this site get redeveloped, and this will help move the project forward. So I have asked Michael Weinstein, a manager with Patriot Environmental and Engineering, to join us tonight in case you have any questions for us regarding this project. And if you have those questions, please go ahead with them.
Let me ask first, is there anyone from the public who would like to address this resolution?
There's not. Thank you.
All right, then let me go to Vice Mayor Snavely.
So the easy question probably, and that is, can this all be done in the sidewalk and the right of way without damaging the building?
Well, go ahead, Mike. You can deal with that.
You're on mute, Mike.
There's a little icon.
If you touch the screen, there we go.
Yes, there is some of the impact has gone underneath the building, which Benji is aware of. And that would be addressed at some future date. But for now, the tanks and the vast majority of the impact can be removed from the ground without damaging the building or without damaging the street as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Sallard?
Yeah, what precautions are being taken for the safety and security of the population, of the citizens when this is being done?
Well, I'll answer that. We will make sure that there is a pathway for pedestrians. In fact, I spoke to John Dubois. He was concerned about that since he's on the same side of the street. So we will either block off some parking spaces, or if there is still some space available on that very wide sidewalk, we'll have a safe zone for pedestrians either way.
What's the timetable?
Mike, you want to take that one?
Well, from the time of authorization, we have to file for permits, and the overall work, we're talking about 30 days, roughly.
And I might add, our plan is for the city workforce to replace the sidewalks. Those sidewalks are in good condition. We have the responsibility to clean up the contaminated soil in the tanks, and so we'll be replacing those sidewalks.
All right, Mr. Prithridge.
So just want to commend the city on this work. I know that there was some back and forth with the property owner. I think that people will be very excited to see this vacant property redeveloped. And when I learned as a counselor that the contamination was actually in the public right of way, it's right that we do it. And I don't really know these kind of things, but it seems like a relatively reasonable price to get that kind of remediation work done. And once it's clean, so I guess my follow-up question is once it'll have a clean bill of health then for subsequent redevelopment, under Buster, I'm assuming some will come out and they'll be certified. I mean, what does that mean going forward after the cleanup?
Mike, you want to take that one?
Sure. Depending upon what our final test results are, we have some other reports and work that was done. But if the state deems that there's a release, there is a investigative process that is required. But once the building comes down and the rest of the soil that's beneath that building is able to be excavated, we should be able to achieve what's called a no further action letter.
All right. Any further questions?
And I might just reiterate that, we're responsible for what's under the sidewalk, and Benji will be responsible for what's under his building.
All right. All right, Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll?
Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right. Resolution is adopted 6-0. We'll move on to our second resolution. Ms. Eaton, you may read it whenever you're ready.
Resolution authorizing a feasibility study of electrical efficiencies at city facilities by Pro Lighting and Solar LLC at no cost to the city.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Savely, second by Councilor Southard. I will turn this over to Mr. Dreisbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. At the October Environmental Commission meeting, the commission passed a motion recommending that City Council authorize Pro Lighting and Solar LLC to conduct a no-cost feasibility study of municipally owned buildings to identify potential energy savings associated with lighting, and also to evaluate suitable locations for installation of solar panels. So I did have a subsequent conversation with Mr. Kolbinski to make sure he was aware of our procurement regulations, and that by providing the study, he is not assured of any future work or commitment from the city. So he understands that and is willing to move forward to offer his advice and opinion on electrical savings and solar power for municipal buildings. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Let me see if there is anyone from the public who would like to address this resolution.
There's not this evening. Thank you.
All right. Council questions and discussion? I see Mr. Bracken's hand.
Yeah, I was just hoping to get the scope of this. Is this including all our properties? Will they have access to what they need to see to evaluate potential for solar?
Yes, they have access to, per the resolution, all municipal facilities.
All right, I have a couple questions. How did we select this organization to do the study? Is it,
This was a recommendation from the Environmental Commission.
okay,
So they,
oh,
gave a presentation to that group.
okay. I guess my question is, did we solicit presentations, or was this kind of, I'm trying to avoid the sales pitch is what I'm trying to avoid.
It's a good question. This company is the one that won the RFP for Cincinnati to solarize Cincinnati. So it's just a well-known local business.
Okay.
And it was something that came about as an offer for the feasibility. And Mike, I'm glad you had that conversation, because we know that the procurement would always be by an RFP. So as long as he's willing to put in this energy without any guarantee, I think that is a win-win, or maybe win for us, to have that information done by an expert.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Ms. E. Oh, wait, Mr. Prithridge?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm all in support of this, and I think more information is more information. Yeah, I think that your comment, Mayor Smith, I mean, I think what we want to do is not edge into any particular relationship or any decisions. As long as we can treat it as more information to help us guide us in, for example, the development of an RFP for something, then I think that as long as they understand and we understand, then I think, again, it's more information, and I appreciate the effort to start this conversation.
All right. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Ms. Ragu,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. All right, we will move on to ordinances. Ms. Eaton, you may read the first reading whenever you're ready.
An ordinance levying upon the lots and lands enumerated in the list of estimated assessments, the amounts set forth on such list, and setting forth terms for payment of assessments.
All right, I'll turn this over to Mr. Dreisbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the fourth and final piece of legislation that's necessary for our annual curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvement program that's associated with our street resurfacing program. Previously, council has declared the necessity to make improvements to defective curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Council authorized a contract for a contractor to do the work where property owners were not able to complete their own work. And thirdly, council passed a resolution accepting the determination of actual costs for each parcel of the improvements that were provided by the city. So today is the fourth piece, ordinance authorizing the special assessment to the tax bill of the property owners that did not complete the work. This year, we had a much higher level of compliance with our request for property owners to improve their property. We started well north of 100 properties involved in the program. When we did the determination of actual costs, we had 45 properties that still had not paid work. The city took the extra step, as recommended by Councilor Snavely, Vice Mayor Snavely, pardon me, to send a letter to the property owners after that step to make them aware of the costs involved and their payment options. And that had very good results with several property owners paying the fees that were required. So now we're down to only 26 properties, which is quite a bit lower than typical years. Property owners upon approval of this ordinance, we'll still have 30 days to pay cash for the required amount. And then if they don't choose to do that, it can be paid over 5 years on their tax bill. And we're recommending annual percentage rate of 5%, but that can be set by council. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council.
There is not. Thank you.
All right. Council questions and discussion. All right. Oh, Mr. Snavely?
I just want to thank Mr. Dreisbach for offering that option to people, because I know it meant a lot to some of them, and looks like it makes our work a little easier as well. So thank you, Mike.
I appreciate that. And I should have mentioned there were no objections from property owners as to the costs involved. So I think our communication has improved, and we're seeing a little better compliance. So thank you.
All right. That's very encouraging to see so many citizens getting involved in their own property upkeep. So, all right, this is first reading, so we'll see this again in 2 weeks. We'll move on to our second first reading. Ms. Eaton, you may read that whenever you're ready.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 3538, supplemental budget ordinance number 9, to make supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2020.
All right, I'll turn this over to Mr. Newland.
Yes, as Doug mentioned earlier, the first item on the supplemental is to make an adjustment to the budget appropriations for the removal of underground storage tanks and right of way in front of the old Follett's location. And that'll be appropriated from the capital improvement fund of $33,600. The second is actually, I'll have to adjust this next time. I sort of copied the thing from above, but we needed to advance money to the local coronavirus relief fund from the general fund in order to pay the participants in the grant program that's being funded by the county. In turn, once we return that information to the county, they will pay us the amount that we return to them. So this is just a mechanism to be able to pay them up front, and then we will get reimbursed for the total amount that we loan out in grants, and that'll be returned to the general fund then after the everything's wrapped up on this. I'm glad to answer any questions.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council.
There's not this evening. Thank you.
All right. Council questions? Discussion? All right. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Okay, this is the first reading. We'll see this again in 2 weeks. We will move on to second readings, and I will need a motion to remove item 6B.1 from the table.
Moved.
Motion by Mr. Snavely, second by Mr. Prithridge. Ms. Eaton, will you call the roll to remove it from the table?
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Ms. Ragu,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right, Ms. Eaton, will you please read the ordinance before us?
An ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Oxford, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
All right. Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Snavely, seconded by Councilor Southard. And I will go back to Mr. Elliott.
Well, you can.
Or Mr. Newland. Okay.
Yes, I just want to thank council for tabling this last week. Our last meeting, it had been tough to do on a fly to try to do an amendment to the budget, so gave me time to work it out. And I'll just go over the items that I changed in the budget from the second reading. I increased the appropriations in general fund by $10,000 in the engineering department budget for energy efficiency initiatives, and then decrease the appropriation in general fund by $10,000 to transfer to the capital improvement fund. That was done in order to make a balanced budget. And then increase the appropriations in the fire EMS fund by $10,000 in the fire EMS department budget for energy efficiency initiatives. And then next, increase the appropriations in the water fund by $40,000 in the engineering department budget for energy efficiency initiatives. Decrease the appropriations in the water fund by $40,000 for the transfer to the water capital improvement fund. And again, that was to balance the operating budget. Then increase the appropriations wastewater fund by $40,000 in the engineering department budget for energy efficiency initiatives. And then decrease the appropriation in the wastewater fund by $40,000 for the transfer to the wastewater capital improvement fund. And again, that was done to balance the operating budget in the wastewater fund. And I put all these in the engineering department because I figured that Mike Dreisbach would probably be the lead on this because he oversees all the facilities in the city. So it was just easier to keep track that way. I'm glad to answer any questions.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council.
There is not. Thank you.
All right, council questions and discussion? Councilor Prithich.
So I want to thank the manager and our finance director for making that change. And I appreciate that it kind of distributed across different units. But as I understand it, then because we haven't exactly decided how we want to spend the money, you could still make transfers. For example, if we decide a capital project is the best way to go or other things. So does that require council action further on, or is that something you can do kind of within the general fund or cross fund transfers if you decide or we decide on a particular course of action?
That would be done after the study's done to see what improvements are necessary. And we can adjust that next year in the supplemental. At this point, we just want to get it in the budget, so it is movable.
All right, great, thank you. And again, thanks for making this in second reading, and we were happy to table and that you could find room to do it. It may end up in capital improvements anyway, but now we have that flexibility, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other council questions or discussion? All right. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Ms. Ragu,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. So that ordinance is adopted. We'll move on to our second reading. And again, I will need a motion to remove item 6B2 from the table.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Snavely, second by Mr. Prithridge. Ms. Eaton, will you call the roll to remove it from the table?
Ms. Ragu,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right, Ms. Eaton, you may read the ordinance whenever you're ready.
An ordinance outlining budgeted transfers for the city of Oxford, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Snavely, second by Councilor Southard. And we'll go back to Mr. Newland.
Yes, and thank you again for tabling this last week. And this tags along with the appropriation ordinance. And I'll just read the transfers that I adjusted because I went through them, all of them at the first reading. So in the general fund, a transfer from the general fund to the capital improvement fund went down by $10,000 to $199,203. In the water fund, the transfer to the water capital improvement fund decreased by $40,000 down to $419,348. And finally, the transfer in the wastewater fund, so the wastewater capital improvement fund decreased by $40,000 to $310,655.
Anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council?
There is not, thank you.
All right, thank you. Council questions or discussion? All right, once again, we thank you for fitting this in. Ms. Eaton, you may call the roll whenever you're ready.
Snavely,
Yes.
Miss Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Ms. Raghu,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. And our budget is adopted. Okay. We will move on to announcements and communications, and I will start with City Manager Elliott.
Thank you. First, I'd like to just share with you that this week we've received quite a few calls regarding the letters that were mailed for our electric aggregation program. So just to remind everyone, probably about a month ago, letters were mailed from the city with my signature on it, as well as Energy Harbor, basically stating that Energy Harbor was our new provider and that they gave the new rate, which is 4.71 cents per kilowatt hour. And that letter included a provision for eligible customers, because not every resident receives that. You must be in the Duke Energy service area. And we have some parts of our city that are in the Butler Electric Co-op, Rural Electric Co-op. So if you're an eligible customer, you would have received that first letter. And if you did not want to be included, you would need to basically opt out by either calling them or sending in the bottom of that form. But most of the calls we've received happened with the second letter, which was mailed by Duke Energy. They're required under PUCO rules to send a confirmation that your supplier is now Energy Harbor. The unfortunate wording of that letter is where the confusion was caused. It basically said that based on your application, and of course, no one in our electric aggregation program filled out a form or an application. They were just automatically included. So I did send a note to Tim Abbott about that letter. Obviously, it's already been mailed. They don't require our approval to send that out. They felt, I'm sure they're going to state that they basically felt like they were doing their role in confirming the new supplier. So residents need to know that if you were in our program and our previous provider for the electrical energy was AEP, but as you know, we switched to Energy Harbor. I believe council adopted the resolution back in May, maybe, and we signed a new agreement with them. So once again, you can toss out the letter that you received from the city and Energy Harbor, the first one, and you can also toss out the letter that you received from Duke Energy and you'll be included. But if you do not want to be included, you need to opt out by clipping off the bottom of the first letter and sending it in, or calling and telling them that you don't want to be included. And as I've said before, if you use electric to heat your home, you may want to consider opting out, because Duke Energy has a winter season heating rate, and it typically is lower than ours. But I can't guarantee that. One needs to check with that. So with that being said, if there are any questions, please let me know. I bet we've had over 50 phone calls this week on that. And we've done a lot of messaging. We updated the website. Jessica sent out a notice with the e-newsletter, and we've answered many, many phone calls. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, or comments.
Thank you for clearing that up. I had 5 phone calls myself, and including a couple who called Duke, canceled because they didn't ask for anything. Then they found out what it was. Then they called back and said, no, I don't want to cancel, bring it back. And so it was confusing for a lot of people. Thank you for clearing it up.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Councilor Raghu.
I I think that the diagram to describe the energy was super helpful. I'm just wondering, because I know that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what RECs are and what that means as we look to push towards having our own renewable energy. So I'm just wondering if we could try to establish some form of communication so people understand the difference between RECs and then actual renewable energy that's supplying our electricity.
Well, keep in mind that, and we've discussed this before, that we're not involved in the buying and selling of the REC, but the utility company is. And basically what they're doing is setting aside a certain amount of power to meet our requirement. And of course, as we all know, that the electrons that enter your home, you're not sure where they come from. And they probably do not come from, wind energy in Texas. So I don't really think it's necessary to get into the RECs. That's more of a discussion for, the city council. The residents that want to be included in our program, need to have the basic information on it. And, I just don't want to further confuse folks because if you think about it, and I got on right before Thanksgiving and looked at the apples to apples comparison, the electric choice program. As I've said before, there are 3 choices basically for a resident. You can stay on the Duke standard service offer and accept their rate, or you can go out and pick your own supplier. And when I checked, there were about probably 130. And of course, you can winnow those choices down by plugging in one of the variables, no termination fee, and that reduces it down to about 100. You can basically say that you don't want to have, that you want it to be a fixed rate, and that winnows it down further, so on and so forth. So you have that second choice. But the third one is the easiest one, I think, if you want to be included in a renewable energy program, and that is to sign up with the city's electric aggregation program. And I shouldn't say sign up, is to just ignore the 2 letters that you've received because you're automatically included. Because as you know, in 2014, when we voted on this program, we proposed an opt-out program, and it was decided by the voters something like 70% to 30%. So, I think it's a good program. It does create extra workload for the city. It does cause some confusion for residents that really aren't up to date on, electric choice here in Ohio. And, we try to clear that up for them. But, once again, the RECs is a whole separate issue and doesn't really relate to our program, I don't believe. Any other questions?
Councilor Southard.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. I know it has been it is a lot of work. And, this, as you mentioned, City Manager Elliott, that this was proposed some years ago and voted on by council, and it was proposed by some research that was done by the League of Women Voters. And it is really a good program. It's a good thing for us to do, and I'm so glad we are doing it. So thank you for your good work on this.
Thank you. Okay. I did want to share with you a few numbers, and I guess Amy had asked about the face mask ordinance, and yes, we have been enforcing it. We've cited at least 1 business, and of course, several, I believe, students were cited too. And of course, now with the exodus of the students around Thanksgiving, I'm not sure how many have returned. As we all know by driving around town, there are plenty of parking spaces, but we will continue to enforce it. We'll continue to receive concerns on our website, and of course, those are way down. Many of the instances that we received were basically student-centered incidents where masks weren't being worn. And, but, our goal is to continue to enforce it. I might share with you too that at our weekly leadership meeting that we have, and I'm sure many of you have seen these figures, the updated figure for our 45056 zip code is 271. And that still represents a small minority of the Butler County cases. which is 2.4% as of November 21st. And now this figure does exclude the Miami University student cumulative cases, which was 2,612 as of November 21st. I wonder if Miami will continue to update that dashboard with the students gone, but that's according to the Butler County Board of Health. And then 2,452 cases according to the Miami University dashboard as of November 29th. As we all know, the total reported cases in Butler County continue to go up, but that's primarily in the southeastern portion of the state, of the county, which is basically Liberty, Westchester, and Fairfield Township. The report also includes per 10,000 population. And so obviously this does not mean we need to let our guard down. We need to continue wearing our face masks, practicing social distancing, avoiding large gatherings, and washing our hands frequently. As we all know, under the governor's public health advisory system, we now have 75 counties which are at level 3, which is red. And we also have 4 counties declared at the level 4, level purple. And those 4 counties are Lake, Lorain, Franklin, and Montgomery. I did speak to Mike Everett this evening. I wanted to get a quick update on how we're doing locally with our hospital. We still have plenty of capacity. About 40% of the hospital is being utilized, so there's about 60% capacity. They have had 3 COVID patients, and 1 is from the 45056 zip code. They have plenty of equipment, plenty of staff, and he also shared with me that they're preparing for the distribution of possible vaccine. They have received their freezer. And of course, the guideline will be that the frontline workers, doctors and nurses, as well as our EMS and safety forces will receive those first. But of course, I think we all are reading the newspaper and the headlines, and there has not been an approval, even though I believe at least 2 of the 3 companies have already applied for emergency approval. So, that would be good news, but I did want to share those numbers with you because we do keep in close contact with the hospital and of course, the Butler County Board of Health. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Hey, Doug. So the 3 COVID patients, were they hospitalized in Oxford or did they get transported out?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. One thing that Mike shared with me is that the 1 was transferred out and the 2 went home. But what he has shared with us is that the patients are recovering quicker with the new medication. And I didn't ask for what exactly was the new medication. I'm sure you've read many of the articles too. So, I think, we're making inroads slowly but surely. We're all waiting for the vaccine. But I did want to make sure that we all understood that, our hospital has plenty of capacity. But yeah, so there was 1 patient that still was hospitalized, and I believe he shared with me that patient was transferred out. That's one of the advantages, I believe, at least in my opinion, that, when McCullough Memorial Hospital joined up with Tri-Health, we have a lot of additional resources to deal with something like this. Because from what I've read, a lot of the rural hospitals are running very, very low on beds throughout the United States. And we would probably be classified as a rural hospital if not for the fact that we are combining our resources with the other 5 Tri-Health hospitals. So good question. Thank you.
Mr. Berthridge.
So Doug, I was, Governor DeWine has encouraged businesses and employers to shift to remote work if they can, given the widespread community spread. And I think we know, in addition to the data, I think anecdotally, most of us in Oxford now know it's among us. We have community spread. So I was wondering about city staff. I know this is a managerial and not a council decision, but I know when we had a lot less community spread, a lot of city staff were working remotely where you had skeletal staff. And so I'm kind of concerned. I see most of you guys are still in the office, and I know you're using protocols, but is now not the time perhaps to be thinking about shifting to more remote work, especially in these upcoming months when I just think it's going to be so risky for everyone. So what's the strategy on that, if you could, please?
You're a good question. December is always, forget the pandemic, and I'll come back to that, but we have a lot of employees that take vacation. And so, if you've been into City Hall, you'll notice a lot of empty desks. Safety of our employees, all of our employees, is always our top priority. And certainly it is in this pandemic. I believe our past and our current policies have proved very effective in protecting our employees. I work with the department heads daily, and we discuss things, and we have made adjustments. And if we need to, we'll make further adjustments. So, I think, we need this flexibility. And, we have had some employees out with COVID. Either they had it or they were in contact with someone that had it themselves. And so, we have had employees that have been quarantined or isolated, and, we expect that we'll deal with that. But, we provide essential services, just about every operation except maybe recreation and planning and are not essential services. And I even hesitate to say that because they're very important too. But, we're dealing with it. And, I appreciate your concern for our employees. And, I've even talked about maybe closing City Hall again, but we have very few people that come in. And one of the advantages that we have in the municipal building, as you all know, is we have the luxury of having plenty of space. I mean, if you look at the service and engineering department, they're all spaced. I mean, Leanne is probably about 30 feet from David Prithridge and 35 feet from Scott, and so on and so forth. We're in separate offices, and we're very, very careful because it would be, we're a very lean operation to begin with, and including, police and fire. I mean, in the fire station, we have 3 people on duty. In the police right now, I hesitate to say this, but probably on some evenings, we only have 2 police officers out there. We've had some injuries and other things. So, we're adjusting and we're watching it very, very closely, but I appreciate your concern for our employees. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's see. Any comment from Chief Jones tonight?
No, thank you.
All right. I'll go to Mr. Newland.
Not tonight, thank you.
All right. Mr. Dreisbach.
Just a quick thank you to the Streets and Maintenance Division. It's always a large task to go from curbside leaf collection to snow plowing and salting because that equipment is used for both operations. So thanks to them for being ready and prepared. And thankfully, we're not in Northeast Ohio where they got 12 inches of snow instead of a couple. So thank you. That's all tonight.
All right, thank you. Chief Dethridge, anything tonight?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Waddell.
Good evening, everybody. As you can see, I'm not in my office like so many of the other department heads tonight. But I just want to give one final reminder that Holiday Fest, our annual Holiday Fest, is coming up this Saturday evening. It, of course, will look much different than years past. We will not be in the Uptown Parks. We will be out at the Aquatic Center parking lot doing a drive-through Santa-style Holiday Fest. So we'll have a lot of decorations, a lot of lights. We'll shut down the main parking lot lights so you can see the Christmas lights lit up. And then Santa Claus will, of course, be there, and the families can drive through in their own vehicles and talk to Santa from their cars at a safe distance. They'll maintain that distancing, and Santa of course, will do his best to abide by all of our city rules and regulations. I do want to thank Chief Deathridge and Sam Perry. They've helped me get the official tent permit that you got to have here in the city of Oxford to put up a large tent for Santa Claus to be in. They've helped push that through for me. So yeah, it's different. It's 5 to 9 this Saturday evening out at the Aquatic Center parking lot. So we're doing as much as we can with what we have to work with. So
I'm sure lots of people are looking forward to it. Okay. Anything from Assistant City Manager Green tonight?
Good evening. Just a few updates. If you haven't had a chance to stop by the Oxford Community Arts Center, they've done great work with their CARES Act funding for their outdoor winter wonderland, and it looks very beautiful. So stop by. And we also have extra lights on the stage and uptown, just trying to get people out and up in the uptown area, supporting local business in a safe way. Also, just an update on the public Wi-Fi. We are working with the county to develop an MOU. We've determined the height on the tower to put our installation. And then now we're working on an MOU to use a server rack space in their shelter. So that's like it's moving along quickly, and that's the progress there. And then just to keep you apprised, in the next week or so, I have a meeting with the coalition and a few members of PCRRC, and then Sam Perry and team to start talking about, okay, how do we implement the plan for the community comprehensive plan update, and also the resolution that was passed for incorporating the suggestions of Black Lives Matter and the PCRRC changes. So that all those conversations are still occurring, and we'll keep you updated as we develop a plan. So that's it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perry, anything tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Couple quick announcements. One is we have started our rental inspections again after a 4-month pause. So it was kind of a difficult decision, trying to decide whether we should go back into buildings again, some of which are occupied, but ultimately we decided that in the name of partnering with the property owners for safety of the occupants, we decided to go ahead. We had almost 600 backlogged inspections. So we've started that as of last week, and we're getting that number reduced. So going well, and the property owners have been very open to that. So we're thankful for our rental property managers on that. Another one is that blood donation is going on tomorrow at the Oxford Presbyterian next to the hospital, and again on January 8th. So it's a good opportunity. And it's an opportunity too for the blood center to maybe capture some folks who have recovered from COVID and be able to test and get the plasma, which will help others fight that. So for anyone out there who's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Ms. Eaton, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to our law director, Mr. Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. For the benefit of the public who's listening, last week the Ohio legislature extended the permission to allow for virtual meetings until June 30th, 2021. So for the next 6 months, 7 months, this council can continue, and Planning Commission and other committees can continue to meet virtually if they so desire.
All right. Let's go around council. We'll start with Councilor Ragu tonight.
Several months ago, before COVID hit, Mike was kind enough to give me a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. I thought it was funny that they call it lumpy water, not clean water. But I got so into all the different technology that they're already implementing there, as far as reusing methane, capturing it for usage of their own electricity for the plants. So it really got the wheels turning of how can we maybe capture even more carbon and use that methane for city use, so that we're not only just relying on solar, but we can also hopefully solar eventually, as we're looking at a plant, but how can we look at other forms too, with methane capture being one of them. So I've been been talking to the EPA and trying to find experts on people who know our wastewater treatment plants and what they would envision a plan to be. So I think especially as we're looking at renovations of the wastewater treatment plant going forward, this could be really exciting tech that we're already implementing internally, but could try to export it citywide so that residents could use it. We could lower our carbon footprint even more. So more to come on that. There's so much out there that we can do with what we have so far.
All right. Councillor Ellerby.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. We'll go to Vice Mayor Snavely.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Southard.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that on December 4th from 11 to 1, people can bring their non-perishable grocery items to benefit Meals on Wheels to the senior center. And this is a project that is with Subaru. And on December 11th, they're asking for donations from 11 to 1 also. Those are both on Fridays for warm blankets for people. So these are, charitable actions or actions that can help our community and benefit Meals on Wheels and all the people who might benefit from it. I also want to say that I think one of the reasons that we are doing well with COVID control and the limiting it within our community is the fact that we have a community that is very responsible. And I think we should take a moment to thank our citizens for following the guidelines, for people who permanent year-round residents who have limited their gatherings, their Thanksgiving events, and people have really worked hard to keep their friends and neighbors safe. And this is something I think that is sometimes not mentioned, but something that we should be aware of, that in our community, where so many people are educated and read carefully, they know that these are not political issues, but these are health issues. And so they are taking care of themselves and of each other. And this is something that is one of the things that makes our community as good as it is. Thanks. That's all I have tonight.
All right. Councillor Bracken.
I'd just like to thank everyone in the city, the staff and everyone, just for all the work you generally do, but also we've thrown so much on your plates lately and there's so much going on and you've handled it really, really well. And you've been responsive and we've done a lot of good work and I really appreciate that. And just to add to the thanks tonight, all the frontline workers who are battling some of the toughest conditions, maybe not locally right now, though there's certainly plenty to do here, but nationwide. And then just everybody doing great charitable work across the country and locally especially, because there's a lot going on right now in terms of food drives, sheltering, gift giving, just a lot of good stuff going on. And so I just wanted to thank everybody and tell everyone to stay safe.
All right. Councillor Prithridge.
So I have noticed that people in Oxford I think there's a recognition that conditions are as serious now as they have been. And so I've noted, for example, a lot more mask wearing outdoors, and I'm sure enforcement is part of it, but I think there's a culture shift that people know that these are perilous times in upcoming weeks. So I think it's been really great. I want to commend Parks and Rec and also the city manager's office for everything that's been done uptown. The parks uptown are really quite magical. And in these times, to just be able to walk through some place that's beautiful outdoors with the Lions Club trees and the lights is, we can't take for granted having anything nice to do in public. And so I really think that that's been wonderful. I do just want to say, though, I really do feel acutely like this is a moment of risk and everyone needs to do as much as they can because we're doing pretty well locally, but Butler County, we're at above 80% ICU bed capacity and only going to go up. And so I think that we all just need, for our own sake and for others, and I just would ask that, that the city management think about city staff. I'm sure that we as counselors probably have chosen, we think that 2 hours in a room spaced apart from each other is not preferable to doing this by Zoom, but working in the same office for 8 hours, even given the spaced out conditions, I just think if there are risks that we can mitigate, now's the time to do it. And I hope that we're nimble like that. We've figured out how we can do it. And luckily the legislature's let us as counselors meet remotely. If work can be done remotely, I think we need to figure out if that's not a bad idea to do. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So yes, thank you to everyone for all their hard work, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right. I just want to start tonight by thanking city staff and also the police for their enforcement of the mask ordinance. I got several emails, some as far away as Cleveland, that just a few citations had the desired effect. We'll see where we are when the students come back in 60 days or so, and see if we have to issue any more. I also want to echo that Uptown looks fabulous with the lights at the Art Center and the park and the murals. So I encourage everybody, as weather permits, to stroll around our Uptown. The Dora District is active again. I've seen a few diehards in winter gear with an adult beverage walking the streets. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second by, we'll say, Mr. Prithridge. Ms. Eaton, will you please call the roll so we may adjourn?
Ms. Southard,
Yes.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Mr. Prithridge,
Yes.
Ms. Ragu,
Yes.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.